The Zephyrian delegation had gathered at the observation deck of Station Kepler-7, their crystalline forms shimmering with nervous energy as they watched the tempest rage across the planet's surface below. The storm had been building for 3 solar cycles, its winds reaching velocities that could strip the flesh from bone and its electromagnetic pulses strong enough to disable even their most advanced technology. Ambassador Velthar's voice resonated through the chamber like wind, chimes in a gentle breeze. The research team is trapped in Outpost Delta 9. Our rescue shuttles cannot penetrate the storm barrier. The electromagnetic interference renders our shields useless, and the wind shear would tear our vessels apart. Captain Sarah Chen stood with her arms crossed, studying the swirling maelstrom of purple and gold that dominated the planet's northern hemisphere. The storm stretched for thousands of kilometers, a living wall of destruction that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. Lightning arced between the clouds in patterns that hurt to look at directly, and the very air seemed to scream with the fury of unleashed elements. "How long until the storm passes?" Chen asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Our meteorological algorithms predict it will maintain this intensity for another 15 to 20 solar cycles," replied Velthar. "The research team has supplies for perhaps 5 more cycles at most. They will perish long before we can mount a conventional rescue." The other Zephyrians in the chamber rustled like leaves in autumn wind, their translucent bodies dimming with what Chen had learned to recognize as distress. These beings had evolved on a world of eternal calm, where the strongest wind was barely a whisper. To them, the storm below wasn't just dangerous, it was incomprehensible, a manifestation of chaos that defied their understanding of natural order. "What about emergency teleportation?" Chen suggested. "The storm generates too much interference. We cannot establish a stable quantum lock on their position." Velthar's form flickered with frustrated energy. "In our mythology, only the storm gods could walk unharmed through such fury. We are powerless." Chen nodded thoughtfully, then began walking toward the shuttle bay. "I'll need a basic atmospheric suit and a standard emergency beacon." The Zephyrians followed in a rustling procession, their confusion evident in the way. Their forms wavered. "Captain Chen, surely you do not intend to fly through it?" "No." Chen paused at the equipment locker and began pulling out gear. "I'm going to walk through it." Velthar's entire form went rigid with shock. "That is impossible. The wind speeds alone would what? Kill me?" Chen pulled on the atmospheric suit, checking the seals with practiced efficiency. "Maybe. But those people down there are definitely going to die if we do nothing." "But you are not a god," whispered another Zephyrian, its voice barely audible. "How can you hope to succeed where we cannot?" Chen paused in her preparations, considering the question seriously. "You're right. I'm not a god. I'm something the universe made to be much more stubborn." She activated the shuttle's descent protocols, programming it for a low-altitude drop at the storm's edge. The Zephyrians watched in silent amazement as she continued her preparations with calm precision, treating the suicidal mission as if it were a routine maintenance check. "Your species fascinates me," Velthar said as the shuttle prepared to launch. "We have studied humanity for years, yet we still do not understand how you function. Your bodies are fragile, your lifespans brief, your technology crude compared to ours. Yet you accomplish things we would never attempt." Chen sealed her helmet and checked the emergency beacon one final time. "Maybe that's exactly why we can do it. We don't have the luxury of waiting for perfect conditions or fail-safe technology. We just have to figure it out as we go." The shuttle dropped through the station's launch bay and plunged toward the storm. As they approached the swirling wall of destruction, Chen could see why the Zephyrians considered it divine. The storm was beautiful in its terrible power, a symphony of lightning and wind that seemed to follow patterns beyond mortal understanding. "Drop point in 30 seconds, the shuttle's AI announced. Chen stood at the launch door looking out, at the maelstrom that filled the view screen. The Zephyrians had been right about one thing. No sane person would voluntarily enter that chaos. But then again, Chen mused, sanity was probably overrated. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said into her comm unit, knowing Velthar would be listening. Back home, we call this Tuesday weather in some places. The shuttle reached the drop point, and Chen stepped into the void. The storm hit her like a physical blow, the wind trying to tear her apart molecule by molecule. Lightning struck her suit repeatedly, the energy dissipating harmlessly through the Faraday cage weaving. The electromagnetic pulses that had stymied Zephyrian technology merely made her teeth ache, slightly. Step by step, Chen pushed through the screaming wind. When the atmospheric suit began to tear, she patched it with emergency tape. When the helmet's display flickered and died, she navigated by the compass on her wrist. When the storm tried to lift her bodily from the ground, she grabbed onto rocks and dragged herself forward. Hours passed. The storm raged around her, a cosmic tantrum of unprecedented fury, but Chen kept walking. Her muscles burned, her lungs ached, and every step was a victory won through pure bloody-mindedness. Finally, through the swirling chaos, she saw the lights of Outpost Delta 9. The research team's joy at her arrival was exceeded only by their bewilderment. "How did you get through the storm?" Dr. Kovich asked as Chen helped them prepare for evacuation. Chen looked back at the tempest that had tried so hard to kill her, then began removing her atmospheric suit. The jacket underneath was barely singed. "I just kept walking," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. "Storms end eventually. You just have to be more patient than they are." Above in the station, Velthar watched the rescue beacon's steady signal and finally understood something profound about humanity. They weren't gods. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that simply refused to accept the word impossible.